Library Treasure Hunt, a UDL redesign by Linda Kerr. This film will discuss what Universal Design for Learning is and how I redesigned the Library Treasure Hunt with Universal Design for Learning guidelines. It will evaluate the effectiveness of the redesign and place it in context with how the Irish education system currently employs the Universal Design for Learning guidelines from CAST. Universal Design for Learning, or UDL for short, follows on from Universal Design in Architecture, the need to provide access for all people into buildings. Ralabate says that UDL was initially proposed as a means for including students with disabilities in the general education classroom, but it is now better understood as a general education initiative that improves outcomes for all learners. There are three basic principles in UDL. 1, to provide multiple means of representation. 2, to provide multiple means of action and expression. And 3, to provide multiple means of engagement. The Center for Applied Special Technology, now known as CAST, and their website cast.org, provide guidelines for UDL. It's these guidelines that I have used to redesign the Library Treasure Hunt. As a JCSP librarian in a Dutch school in Tallaght, many of our students are in the Junior Certificate Schools program, or JCSP program, that provides extra support for students that might have social difficulties, home difficulties, or learning difficulties. Over the course of their junior cycle, JCSP students can earn statements that would be organized into a portfolio of work over the 3 years spent in junior cycle. This allows them to have a qualification even if they do not pass their junior cert. Here we can see an example of one of the library statements. You can see there are 3 choices and they can color in as they see fit, whether they think they're doing pretty well, or very well in each one of those different categories. And we can see that one of number 6 is find information books on things that I'm interested in. The way we do that is to teach them what the Dewey Decimal System is and how to find things in a library. Hopefully that will help them later on if they progress to 3rd level. Here is an example of the current treasure hunt in the booklet created by the JCSP librarians to help students achieve their statements. As we can see, it's very text heavy. There isn't much color. There's information overload with that list of Dewey numbers. It's not engaging for anyone who has ADHD, and it has the same interface for the whole module, a paper booklet. My redesign will concentrate on access. In the CAST.org framework, I will be using the Guide from Engagement of 7.2, Optimize Relevance, Value, and Authenticity. And then in representation, it will be 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. Offer ways of customizing the display of information, offer alternatives for the auditory information, and offer alternatives for the visual information. Then it will also improve on action and expression. In 4.1, we will vary the methods for response and navigation and optimize access to tools and assistive technology. The way I've redesigned the treasure hunt is by using the app Action Bound. It's a digital treasure hunt, and the children can use their own phones that they're familiar with. That will optimize relevance, value, and authenticity for them according to the guidelines in CAST 7.2. Students need only download the app Action Bound unless they want to use one of the library devices if they have none of their own. Then they can scan a QR code which brings them directly to the library treasure hunt. Each question in the treasure hunt will have multiple means of representation. There will be a visual clue, an auditory clue, as well as a text clue. That provides ways of customizing the display, the auditory information, and the visual information for each learner. The learner can answer the question by taking a picture with their phone. That way, they can either write down what they want and take a picture of it, or take a picture of the physical book itself. And that varies the methods for response and navigation, since they can choose to answer any question in any order they want. Because the learners are using their phones, they are already quite familiar with the assistive technology that they have in their hand. But if they do not have a phone, the library does offer its own iPads for use. Before the redesign, students completed the library workbook that was over 40 pages long. The treasure hunt itself took up 6 of those pages. During that, students found it tiring, they lacked focus, they complained of being bored, and they had poor performance. After the redesign, there was much higher engagement with the activity. There was much more movement during class, more confidence, and there were no complaints. Plus, they were allowed to have choice, and they were allowed to team up and do this with a friend. Giving them choice in their action and expression really helped the activity go over well. There was a better feeling leaving the library, and the students felt like they'd learned a lot. Current Irish policy on UDL within schools is relatively new, according to Flood and Banks. There is a lack of time and a lack of support and a lack of knowledge for teachers. And there is no mention of how to apply any of these principles to the school library, because we know there are very few in Ireland. Flood also mentions that it's just the beginning in her introduction this year to UDL and Irish policy in schools. In Canada, there is universal provision of school libraries once a school population reaches a certain threshold. School libraries have adopted the School Library Learning Commons in conjunction with the Higher Education Opportunities Act. The Canadian education system is a good reference for us to compare ourselves to, since they are further along in adopting UDL policies and guidelines. However, the Canadian education system is different to the Irish one, so we have to keep that in mind when we implement UDL guidelines. Overall, I think the redesign of the library treasure hunt was a success. There was more student engagement, and they did have a better time, and they seemed to get more success. However, more thought has to be put into the CAST framework in the future for library activities and school libraries as a whole and how they function.